Thanks for staying with us. Without further ado, let's look to establish connection to our reviewer this Friday morning as we look to dig into the stories making the rounds, particularly with the lead story on the state of the nation and the state of our refineries. Now, joining us via phone call this morning is Honorable Cletus Obun. Hello, Honorable. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Nigeria, and good morning, ADPN crew.
Good morning to you, sir, and Happy New Year as well.
Same to you, and the Nigeria be blessed once again.
Now, this morning, Nigerians are waking up to more news circulating the rounds on the state of our refineries, both Warri and Port Harcourt refineries, on the optimal functionality, with an allegation by the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, that the NNPCL spent $2 billion on its turnaround. What do you make of this invitation now handed over to the former president to take a tour of the refineries amidst the issues he's raised?
I do not think that a man who has been accused of being a cripple needs to invite anybody to come and see his legs. All you need is to get up and walk. If you are accused or a man tells you and goes on national television to say that he has heard that you are a cripple, it's for you to get up and dance and make the video viral, or walk in public and attend functions or dance. It is not for you to proceed to invite him to come to your house and see that you have legs. Let us see the oil rolling out from those refineries. That's all that you can use to shut Obasanjo off. I have never agreed with him before on most of these issues because I feel that as an average man, he should be more circumspect in making statements that will be inflammatory. But on this occasion, I stand with him on all fours to say that NNPC should prove itself by providing oil from those PMS or any other such products from the refineries rather than inviting him to the... Obasanjo is not a petroleum engineer. He's not into petrol and gas industry, oil and gas industry. I remember that he had an HND in engineering. I'm not sure that one of the engineering is in the petroleum production. So they should come out with fuel in those areas. They should bring petrol from those areas and let us see tankers rolling out. Let's see the price of fuel competing with that of Dangote and other refineries and other prices, and then importing the importers. We don't want to hear the story of we went down the factory and show us pictures and videos. We want to see fuel in the market from those refineries. That's all we need to do now. That invitation for me is another way of getting us on the circus show on a yearly basis. We've seen too much money going into that place, and he has named the sum. That is not what he wants to say, and what he means, and what Nigerians want to know and see is that there is PMS, there is diesel, gasoline, and everything coming out of all the products from petroleum, coming out from the petroleum products coming out of the refineries. We've done it, and Obasanjo showing us videos of how he went to the chambers and all the sections of production. That is, we are not on a student tour or a student excursion to see how a broadcasting house does. We need to hear ADBN and watch them on TV. We want to watch them on our tube in our homes. It's not for us to tell you that we have a station in the U, we have another one in Abuja. We want to watch and see you and hear you the way you are talking to me now. You don't need to tell anybody that ADBN is a TV station in Nigeria. So I think that Obasanjo has thrown the challenge. They should bring out the products and roll out the products from those refineries.
Now, on this subject of optimal functionality, the former president also cited an advice given by Shell Petroleum Development Company stating the fact that these refineries might never function optimally. Off the back of such an advice, do you think that Nigerians' hopes might have been shattered referencing that promise and the hopes that we might have cheaper and accessible fuel going into 2025?
That particular statement is taken out of context. Those of you who have followed the history of oil and gas in Nigeria, especially about those refineries, will remember that what we installed there was the old technology of oil production. It is only as at the time he was talking, it was about 2001 up to 2007 when they left office. At that time, the technology has advanced beyond what it was when Shell was talking about it. As of today, a few changes to some of those constructions and some of those technologies, such as the one that Dangote has installed, will definitely make it work optimally. So if you say the production capacity is 200,000, 300,000, or if you say 1,000 liters per day, what it meant is that you can improve it and power it. Even in warfare, even in war technology and other such things, you can propel and improve on the technology of yesterday to give you maximum. For instance, I remember that the Scud missiles that were produced by the U.S. and given to Iraq to execute the Iran war for 8 years, the Iraqi army propelled it to 300 kilometers. It was meant for 150 kilometers. It was propelled to 300 kilometers. And that is why Iraq could propel them into Israel, to Tel Aviv, to provoke Israel at that time. So if today we say that 200 capacity production of 200,000 liters of fuel per day from Warri or from Port Harcourt Refinery can make it produce 1 million, it is not impossible. So I am sure that the former president should not be taken out of context. What he said at the time Shell was talking, it was that the way and manner the things were installed, that the machinery were installed at the time, could not go beyond a particular capacity. Now, with modern technology, that is not the issue. The issue is that the management of those places and by the management as it was at the time, and which I still believe today, is such that whatever you put there will be pouring water into a basket. That it will never work. That's the context in which that the management cannot. And I also maintain the same thing, that this management of NNPC is construed and composed in such a way that to get the results from that place, you need to change the entire architecture, especially the managerial architecture of NNPC, for us to get maximum output and production from the refineries, the 3 refineries. It is about the management, not even the machines. What is impossible about buying machines and installing them? There's nothing difficult about that. You have enough engineers to do that. But we are saying the management is in a manner that cannot bring any productivity from that area. That's the point Nigerians are making. It's about the management of NNPC, not about the machines. The machines can be acquired and installed. There's nothing wrong with that. There are good Nigerians to do that. We have enough engineers to do that.
Well, the Dangote refinery has also been a subject of conversation in recent times, and many are talking about the allegations that they've also cut crude supply to Dangote refinery to be able to accommodate the demand from Port Harcourt and Warri refinery. Many are calling those allegations nonsense. But how do you see the NNPCL managing the coming on board of both of these refineries vis-a-vis the Naira for crude sales, and how do they manage the quantity in demand?
All you need to do, which is what the president said to us the other day, is to increase supply and production. Today we are talking about 1.5 million barrels per day production of our oil, crude oil production. All you need is to take it to maximum production, and this supply issue will not be there. The shortfalls will no longer be there. As we stand today, every Nigerian knows that we were told the quantity is 1.4, but you know, as I do, that Nigerians have never really known the quantum of oil produced by Nigeria, because NNPC has constructed made itself a republic of its own. It's a government of its own, operating without any leverage or any input from any Nigerian government since 1999. And I have challenged anybody who knows the actual production of oil. Even Obasanjo cannot tell you that in his time he knew the actual crude production of the Nigerian petroleum production from NNPC. So as far as I'm concerned, that argument is purely an economic politics. It's the politics of oil that they are dealing with. So if you supply crude oil production to Dangote will not have enough to compete in the market. That is why I've insisted that you cannot be a regulator and an actor in the same industry. It is unjust. It is unfair. for NNPC to be the regulator and at the same time be competing with other. So if more private refineries come up, they'll be competing with the owner of the oil, which is NNPC. Is that fair competition? Is that the intentment of freeing the oil industry and unbundling it? Was that the intentment? No. What Nigerians expected is that the managers should be different from the producers and the market players. They can never be the same. From the upstream to midstream to downstream of oil industry, the actors are completely different, and the management and those who regulate them should be seen to be neutral and not participant. So as long as these contentious allegations will continue, therefore, it is my contention and my argument this morning that NNPC and our president, who has demonstrated sufficient courage in taking decisions, should be able again to demonstrate it first by releasing the money on NNPC of it. We have enough Nigerians, young Nigerians, old Nigerians, who can be brought in like veterans to come and manage that place and give us the best that we can get from the oil industry. Why should Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, even Angola, if you think it is foreigners, how is Saudi Arabia better than Nigeria? How is Venezuela a third world country better than Nigeria? How is Angola better than Nigeria? It is all about management and personnel. So I think that the president must come out and save Nigeria and give us a New Year gift by telling us that NNPC there's a clean sweep of NNPC. That for me is the recipe for giving us the best that we can get from our oil and gas industry.
Well, then moving on, let's also pick on another issue causing controversy this morning. It's the second issue in the news, and it's following comments made by Labour Party's presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Mr. Peter Obi, who was speaking on the state of the nation, has said that Nigeria's situation is worsening. He has cited the rise in our national debt to over 100 trillion naira in 2024. And the APC has replied him this morning. It's more on the reply more from the opposition angle than speaking to the issues. I don't know what you make of some of the incidences he cited that are the indicators on why he has chosen the word worsening to describe our national situation.
This issue of constantly engaging in alarms rather than creating solutions is not a mark of statesmanship. Peter Obi's constant raising of alarm and keep creating panic and tension by his statements. Yes, it's good to do so as an opposition, and I welcome it so much. But I would be more interested that at his level, having been a governor and with ambition to run for governorship, presidency again, even though I see that as overreaching, but I would still insist that Peter Obi should give us solutions rather than raising queries, because he's a statesman, and whether or not he likes it, Tinubu will rule as APC for 8 years. 8 years is not 80 years. It's not even 8 years anymore, because 2 years are gone. So we'll be dealing with 6 years. He will still be young enough to run for presidency after the tenure of Tinubu and APC in the next year. He's free to run. He may even run as an APC candidate. But I'm saying that in doing so, he will meet a Nigeria that he wants to be better. And he cannot come and meet a Nigeria in a state of war or total decay. So what he should be doing now is how to build the country that he wants to inherit and govern. And he wouldn't be coming here to govern over the graves of Nigerians or a war theater. I'm not sure that Peter Obi can manage a war, because Anambra has not been better since he left it. So we have examples of him and how he ruled. What did he leave as a legacy? Is he going to bring and blame his successors for the condition in Anambra? Or is he going to start blaming those who think that the only way to survive is to blame and criticize for just criticism's sake? Yes, Nigeria is getting worse. What I think is the debt ratio of Nigeria as we met it. What are the hopes and what are the indicators? Even the World Bank, even the Central Bank has given new statistics to show that we have improved on our economy. Then what you are getting on a daily basis is this accusation of our debt has risen. Can we repay? I've asked the question, can any responsible government or agency or institution, the Brentwood institutions, World Bank, IMF, Can they give a loan to a country that is on its knees, that is constantly looking for succor? They can only give loans to a country that has shown indication that they can repay those loans. So that they even accept to give loans to Nigeria at all presupposes that Nigeria is in a good state of economic health to accept debt and be able to take it. Can even in a boxing tournament, even in a sport, even in football, as entertaining as it is, can an injured player be allowed to go into the field? Of course, the answer is no. So it is not in our own interest to continuously shout about debt. It is also a sign of good health, economic health, that you are collecting debt. Two, he's talking about the security situation where we have to go and make the place secure so that food security can improve. Please, sitting in that studio, you left your house to that place. How many incidents of attacks have you heard in Abuja? As we used to hear in those days where Eagle Square will be attacked, the Nigerian police headquarters will be attacked, the facility of the special squad called SARS, which is now the Special Squad for Anti-Crime in Abuja, was attacked, and Boko Haram terrorists who were put in that place were released and taken back to their places, where you have a situation in which, how many have you heard in the last 2 years, not only in Abuja, but elsewhere? What you get are sporadic attacks of a minimal standard. The stampedes are not an attack. They happen anywhere. Today, America itself is dealing with the shootings in New Orleans. We are hearing those things happen everywhere. Now, each country has its own rate of crime and criminality to contend with. Nigerians also cannot be taken out of context and blown out of proportion because a presidential candidate wants to score political points. I think we are past that stage. What a Peter Obi should be seen to be doing, for instance, it tells us cut the cost of government. Please demonstrate it. We have heard him say in the past how he stopped his convoy from being 10 to 5 or 2. How the purchase of fuel was reduced because he now personally has to do that. We want to hear him say so today. To say your convoy is this number, we want to see this number. Remember.
Now, talking about numbers, Honorable, talking about numbers, he has cited a few numbers. I would also like for us to reference as you continue making your points. He's talking about the days spent in office by the president, citing that out of 580 days, the president spent 180 abroad on international travel. I don't know what these numbers entail, but the presidency is saying that those 180 days were invested in seeking FDIs.
Let me say this. About the traveling and about the number of days spent out of 580. 180 over 580 is what percentage? In any case, let us assume we even travel for 200 or 300 days. Actually, only 200 days a year. What we should be asking is, what is the impact? What effect does it have on the country, the economy, and our security, and on Nigerians? At this 2024, this is 2025 now, as at the time of those travels, you remember that the pandemic taught us a lot of lessons, that anything can happen anywhere with technology. People couldn't go to their own offices, even in their homes. Meeting their own spouses and children and families became an issue. The families dissolved on account of the absence of parents or personal contact. The businesses collapsed. They may have slowed down, but they didn't collapse. They are still on. So are also countries. Most countries have to do their meetings virtually, and they still ran full courses. We didn't see any dramatic changes. That does not in any way presuppose that the travels of President Tinubu did in any way cause any severe injury. He should have shown us the impact of that. That is what would have made sense. Just throwing the numbers for 26. Can you tell us that in 180 days, the absence of this president cost us this day? That is the impact you should be telling us, not just about traveling. Because the travelers are not just for luxury. They didn't go to attend one-day parties anywhere. They were functional state parties. Most of those issues, like the G7, like the Brazil, the BRICS meetings, and then the G30 and other such places, the visits to India and other such places, you couldn't have said they were frivolous trips. They were not, some of them were even medical. which could be anybody. How many of them were medical? So all this was imputed into the so-called 180 days. So I want to see people tell us that when this man was not here, when President Tinubu was not here, because of his behavioral troubles, this is what happened to us. And this would have been averted if he was around. That is the kind of impact you should draw, and not just enough to say he traveled. On the contrary, we can give you statistics to also show that those travels is what they brought to Nigeria. For instance, the visit to France. It brought closer to all the Francophone countries that have been very, very antagonistic to Nigeria and its foreign policy. Knowing very well that over 80% of our borders are bordering Francophone countries. Visiting France and drawing France closer to us makes France give us a helping hand, especially at a time when 2 or 3 of those Francophone countries are having very sour relationships with France, and Nigeria is a leading country within the West African sub-region. ECOWAS is suffering debilitating effects on account of the effect. Remember that what happened in Libya and the arms in Libya form part of the caches that were shipped into Nigeria to exacerbate and escalate the Boko Haram operations in Nigeria, which has now snowballed and metamorphosed into banditry and kidnapping in northern Nigeria. Those were the effects that came from Libya. So if Nigeria today decides to spend time and do concessions with Libya, it is not because of fear or frivolity. So also it is with France. So most of these travels, like we said, our economic fortunes are turning around. Look at our statistics in oil production and sales today. As at this morning, what is the price of petroleum? All these are the effects of the travel that are now, again, beginning to show up. And more of those impacts are going to be shown in the coming days. And already we are getting that. So the stabilization of the Naira, even in the black and the open market, can show you that they are almost stabilizing, almost equal. Before now, it was almost double. So if you have 190,000 in while the central bank is selling dollar for 110 naira, 1,000 naira, $900, somebody goes to buy it to go to Zone 4 in Abuja or Airport Hotel in Lagos, opposite Airport Hotel in Lagos, to sell it at 1,500, 1,800. Today they're talking about 1,540 to 1,130. So 530. So it's almost oscillating within the same area by floating the naira. Such things will not be done by sitting in Nigeria. It is by engaging the international community for international policy to play the political economy of the world at the moment. And this president is sufficiently traveled and knowledgeable to know the dynamics of traveling and engaging your colleagues and counterparts across the world, especially on the economic front. And even on the war front, even on the crime front, even on stemming insecurity in the country. You need to engage. And those are not things that you bring to the public floor, the public glare, and into the national television and discourse. He wants to be president. He should sit down and learn. Peter Obi should sit and learn from his superior. Because he governed Lagos, Tinubu governed Lagos, he governed Oka, he was in Oka in Anambra State. Let us look at the two, 10, 15 years down the line, and see who has made more impact. So that we will now know that it is not just about playing politics by talking too much, but by also listening and watching. And like I said, he must have to give us solutions, not just give us the criticism. Because if Nigeria goes down, he will go down with Nigeria. Like Achebe will ask, if a house goes down, do you ask whether the ceiling also went down? So if Nigeria goes down, will we ask whether Peter Obi will survive? So Peter Obi should act like a statesman and give us solutions as well. He has identified the problem, let him suggest solutions. I know that he doesn't have fantastic solutions because what he's saying, the elementary economics he's exhibiting is at the macro level of Anambra State, and we didn't see them work there because Anambra is not better. It is only rather Soludo that is showing us that he can bring something new on the table to Nigerian governance.
Now talking solutions, he is preferring that the president takes it a step further by visiting states within Nigeria, particularly with reference to the health sector. He says that the president needs to check on the state of federal hospitals in the country and access to health facilities, and probably even take a few checkups there just to ascertain the quality of health being offered Nigerians. What do you make of the state of federal hospitals and access to healthcare in the country now, and especially with the promise that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is telling Nigerians that drugs will be made available at cheaper prices in 2025?
Remember that earlier recently, the Minister of Health Party had talked about the health centers in the communities, primary health care is at the heart of health care. Tertiary health care is ordinarily supposed to be referrals and cases that go beyond. Most of what kills Nigerians is what kills malaria, filariasis, diphtheria, cholera, and such other things that come out from either bad water or other such things within the community. So our general hospitals are not the issue. Our tertiary health care is not in very bad shape as such. What we need is a primary health care system to be improved upon, what to resuscitate what Ransom Kuti started by producing more primary health care workers and engaging them in a manner that motivates them. That is where we should be. So I think on that one, he got it wrong. You cannot jump to tertiary health care at a time when primary health care is at its worst. I think that is where we are. Unless he doesn't travel to his place. If he does, as I do now, as I speak to you from my place now, I know how many cases we've had to handle as small as injuries to the leg, where tetanus can affect and kill. Those things don't exist in primary facilities. So more people die in those areas than the ones that go to those who go to the tertiary health facilities like teaching hospitals, general hospitals, are not always in good number. They are not even significant, and the impact is not much. But I can tell you the effect of poor primary health care is where we are now. And in any case, talk about visiting states. Before he could even make that statement, the president's itinerary had already shown that he would be in Enugu. The president's itinerary had already shown that he would be in Enugu. So it was not on account of it. The president is starting a new phase of taking on state. And he's leaving straight from his holiday. His time holiday, straight to Enugu. He's not going to Abuja to start saying, I'm going to Enugu and waiting. That is part of court of governance. Otherwise, some people looking for the paparazzi would have landed under Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport from Muhammad Bali, MM1, Muslim Mohammed Airport from Lagos. He'll be landing Azikiwe and then now taking it back to Enugu to go and land there and then get international attention with television cameras all over the place. But what has the man done? He's moving straight from Lagos to Enugu to start his state tours. So he's kicking the ground running beginning the year in the heart of the the southeast. So what does that tell you? That even before he thinks about this president, the president is already ahead of him. And I think that Nigerians should commend this effort. So on that, he has the same vision with the president, and we will have to commend the president for taking that step on saying that he has to move to lead the state and see them in their real domain, so that real issues will discuss real time on the ground and in situ.
Now, moving on to another issue in the news, making the rounds is the federal government's deficit spending, which has been published to have risen 28% to 12.1 trillion naira. Now, it's coming into calls, especially in line with the 2025 budget, which is before the National Assembly. Do you think that there needs to be some adjustments made to ensure that this money is spent better and that we somehow shop for the deficits in our budget?
So when we talk about deficit, I don't like this voodoo economics of constantly thinking about and saying that monies are not properly used. Can you say what useless way in which the monies have been used? We would like to see that happen. Before now, our argument was that, look, National Assembly members, commissioners, ministers, government officials are doing this. Are spending and giving us deficits. Today we are discovering that it is more. How many kilometers of road did the Minister of Works tell us is going to engage in? And that contracts are being signed for contractors to move to sites across the country. In the 6 geopolitical zones, specific number of kilometers are to be constructed. These are some of the things we're seeing, and nobody wants to talk about them. That's at the last regime, and this is one of the points I keep making. That our information management, especially from the presidency, is a problem. We are not doing enough. So much is being done and nothing is being told to Nigerians. I think that we should be better with our information management. And some of us will soon stop talking about issues because it does appear that some people are paid for doing nothing. And some people are given positions just to blow their ego. They are not doing what they are supposed to do. Government is doing so much with so much money and then ensuring that can be explained, and then nobody in government appears to be willing to talk to anybody. NNPCL is not willing to even talk about what it is doing. How many barrels are you producing? We want to know. Why are they not taking us to the creek to show us what they are producing? Again, here where we are telling us that we're having deficit. Why are we having deficit? Nobody's explaining that to us. So it is now citizens like us who should now come and be explaining in what capacity and why will you believe me if I start telling you what I'm telling you now? The only reason you are believing me is because I have a credibility quotient that is beyond and over time. That is what I can tell you this morning. Because if you start talking about 12%, 12.2 trillion, and what is our production level and what is our revenue rating within the last quarter of the year? Look at the figures as well and tell me whether those figures are still correct. So the statistics and the statistics are doing so much and nobody's coming to sit down and break it for the public to understand. Why is that happening to this government? Why is that happening to Tinubu? Why is that happening to APC? What's happening to our information management team? We can't be doing this at personal levels. People should take responsibility for explaining to Nigerians, their own Nigerians, a day-to-day explanation. If not day-to-day, quarterly explanation, monthly explanation, weekly explanation, and if issues bust up in this manner, they should explain them, and not to come and give us shallow responses that do not in tandem with the statistics that have been put out, especially by our opponents who think that the only way in which they can survive politically is to bring down APC. And like I have said, it is their duty to do so. I don't begrudge them. It's a duty of opposition to keep us on our toes, but we should also be up to our own game and up to speed. So I'm taking time off to call on our party, on especially our information management unit. We have Director of Information at the headquarters. We have the Publicity Department. We have in the presidency about 12 or 10 media aides for the president alone, around the vice presidency. And then we have also the minister's office running all this. And no department or ministry of government, MDA, does not have information management team. Yet, every time we are coming to the bat in this manner without adequate responses. Of course, the National Orientation Agency has been nipped and muffled by poor funding. Otherwise, they are in the thousands of local government. This explanation should be given on local radios and on pamphlets and leaders and handbills. But are they funded? I have my doubt.
Well, a good cause there and a good case of reason. I hope that they will take it upon them to ensure that it is done. Now, moving on to another issue is where the NLC is slamming state governors amid subsidy gains. They said that state governors have failed to prioritize agriculture, especially with an increase in FAC allocations. It is risen by 1.7 trillion naira, yet in that stead, some states are also challenged with improving their IGR. I don't know if it's all based on local government autonomy, or how do we holistically see the subsidy gains being trickled down in its effect down to states and local governments?
Well, you can see the contradictions. There's an increase in agriculture input by 1.7 trillion. At the same time, we are saying we are having deficit. And then there is also the figures showing that revenue to state and local government has also massively improved. And yet we are asking how we are spending the money to the federal government rather than asking our state the questions and our local government the questions. So having laid the foundation that there is enough money now, sufficient money, huge increase in revenues from federation accounts going to state and local government, the question of attention should not be drawn to those levels of government, those tiers of government. Having established that on agriculture, I'm asking, where is the Minister of Agriculture? Where is the Minister of Agriculture? Is that also the duty of the President who has delegated that function to him? That's why the President is coming out now. If you remember, just before Christmas, he released over 300 billion to several institutions of agriculture to go more into research on how to improve given the climate change challenges that are coming up. How universities, which are research centers, should now go. Places like NISPRI, National Stock Products Research Institute in Ilorin, and also Root Crop Institute in Ibadan, IIAT in Ibadan as well, and other such places, building authorities, how they can improve on food production and therefore increase our chances of food security. If this is so, do we need the prompting of a president to go around? But because the man is proactive, because the president of Nigeria is proactive, He's now going out of his way. I know that some states are already taking steps in that direction in the agricultural food chain production. For instance, look at the Cross River State cash crop production for cocoa this year. Cross River alone, I am very sure, has over 75% of disposable income from the farming areas of cocoa, the cocoa lease agreement that it has, and the small scale production that goes on in Boki, Etu, Ekom, even up to parts of Obaniko and Obudu. If you go to the economies of those places, you won't believe they are in Nigeria. The economies in those areas have catapulted to the point where I can tell you that a young boy of 25 years, 30 years can give local government its allocation. You put 2 or 3 of them together, they can give allocation to local governments. Today, as I speak to you in those local governments. But there is no attention paid to how those young men should manage those funds in a way that give us a multiplier effect in those local governments and in the state. I went into an event in which the community was challenged with the road infrastructure. We are meeting with the governor of Cross River State on Monday on account of that. And a young man got up and said that his team, he and his team, can construct that road without talking to government. But it's a government road. And they are volunteered to do that. I said, okay, let's go meet the governor and tell him that this is what you want to do. You cannot be doing that without the state knowing about it. No, this is just one example. So I can tell you that the constant use of federal allocation is making states laid back. What happened to us in the 1950s, where 50% of generated revenue in the provinces, in the regions, was taken to the center, while 50% was retained. At that point, it became easy for the region to develop. And we don't need to repeat the story that is how Ahmadu Bello, that is how University of East, that is how University of Nigeria was built. We don't need to say that. So most of those states, especially in the Eastern region, are in my state. Rubber and palm estates that Okwara belts are still living till today. We are just rejuvenating them and improving on them. Ibia Palm Estate, Boki Palm Estate, Bodum Palm Estate, Kalaro Palm Estate, Kwapon Palm Estate, Unko Rubber Estate, Abia Palm Rubber Estate, all those places are all on till today. Kalaro is still on. Krell, Crossbar Estate Limited, it's all rubber estate that are going to Calabar from Obudu or from anywhere that you get them there from Econ, from Ghana. You see those rubber estates there. They were planted in the 1960s by Okwara. And today we are still using them. Whatever we can do with them. And yet we are sitting here every day and talking about states not producing, that if you take away federal allocation for state cannot survive. It is not true. I want to know the name of that state that does not have the potential for production. No state in Nigeria. There is no such state existing in Nigeria. All we need is to energize them. All we need is to open their eyes to it and cut off this umbilical cord of national largesse coming up from Abuja every day. Abuja, a small conference town with interminable plains of living heads and houses unoccupied, is the one now to sit down and sit in one office to start allocating monies coming from the creeks of Port Harcourt through the desert of Borno State, through the fishes of Baga Market. Those are the areas in which you now bring money to Abuja, and then people are using it now to share to themselves, sitting in company offices with chairs and tables that are made from China, from wood that is brought from Bokiland in Cross River State. How do we continue to run our economies like that and expect to make any magic out of it? It is time we turn around our economy and bring our brains back. That the doors we are bringing from China, from Korea, from UK, from US, from Canada, those doors are made from wood produced in the equatorial rainforest of Cross River State and most other parts of Nigeria, like Okomu National Park in Edo State. We have those forests and we have all the trees from Adam that are still there from Pleasant Forest. And yet we turn around to about being dusty doors that are imported and brought here from the same wood that is started away. You need to travel from Abuja to Calabar and see what wood is coming from the forest of my own place, my homeland. I am at home now as I'm talking to you. More than 100 trucks are just by side. If I was on video, I would have taken this camera to the place for you to see the trucks that are loaded on a daily basis to Northern Nigeria for export. Why can't we use it and get it to finished products in Nigeria?
Now this
Why
major.
can't you set up a factory here?
Now, this major challenge of how we can balance our import and export has also been taken to our next conversation on the food crisis affecting Nigerians. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his magnanimity, talked about the policy in which 150 days waiver would be given for importation of certain food items. But this morning we hear that even in its implementation, the Nigerian Customs Service failed to publish the modalities to achieve it. Now, I don't know if it's a challenge with our system when we have policies like this to bring them to futility, but the challenge is that we're still facing projections of a food crisis going into 2025, and it almost makes nonsense of the duty-free window. How do we begin to have these conversations on accountability and ensuring that policies and initiative of governments are carried out by the MDAs in charge of it?
Again, a total sense of lack of patriotism pervades all our activities and policies. And like in the past, we keep going full circles. These customs and this immigration have been a cesspool for Nigeria's international embarrassment. I thought under the last regime, Hamid Ali, who was then in charge of customs, had made that place strong enough. Look at what Marwa is doing with NDLEA. Look at what we're doing with the drug war. It's not very strong because just because one man is sitting there who is not taking anything to chances and leaving the Nigerian system to run its normal course. He has brought a lot of changes to NDLEA. So it is with customs. How could a policy of this nature? Our president must now take practical steps to ensure that anybody who is constituting a clog in the wheel of progress of these policies is taken out of that system. Like I said, we have eminent, patriotic, and altruistic Nigerians who can carry out this assignment. Anytime we have a square peg put in a square hole and a round peg put in a round hole, we have always got results. And I've just given the example of Hamid Ali in customs in the last regime, and I'm giving the example of NDLEA, Marwa, sitting in NDLEA. Why can't we get it right? So it means customs has returned to its normal state, where corruption is the second name. Corrupt custom, CC. We must have to take back those bad eggs that have returned to that place and clean up the place. That's all you need. You don't need any magic from anywhere. You don't need to import anybody from anywhere to come and run that place. We need, even if it means bringing retired officers that we know can afford to do so. A task force for it. Because this running circles with people trying to get themselves involved in making themselves rich at the expense of Nigerians and turning around to big the government for everything that's going on. I give you the example of even fuel now. Why the price of fuel is going down from Makurdi, from Bandikia to Abuja, it is going up from Obudu to Calabar. Why is it so? It is because people are not taking this seriously. It means bringing up extra effort, doing something extra to get something unique, something special to pull up and make this function. We don't have to shy away from it. And like I said, we have enough hands in this policy within our federation to keep those places going. So I think it is rejigging and changing hands in that heads must have to roll. One that is noticed, heads must roll. If heads don't roll, you will not get anything positive from this very impressive federal government policies that are intended to ameliorate in the short term the problems of Nigerians. How can Nigerians become problems to their own? That is, the suffering of Nigerians has become the gain of a few persons.
Well, thank you.
And we turn around to say that our government is not functioning. Why should the problem of ordinary Nigerians become the benefit of those given to solve them? Even those brought among them. Because the people we are talking about are not from the presidency. They are appointed from within the communities. Why are they turning around to become the problem of their own problem?
Oh, very, very salient points you've raised there, Honorable Cletus Obun. We're also going to make space to accommodate a second guest this morning. Barrister Elias Offor would join us to lend his thoughts to conversations as we approach matters on the state of the nation. Barrister, good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Bito. How are you today?
Very well, thanks for asking. A happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Well, we're talking state of the nation, and Honorable Cletus Obun has raised quite some salient points on the issues affecting Nigeria. I'd like for you to lend your thoughts in this regards, and it's on talks of the state of the nation. We have the former President Olusegun Obasanjo talking about the state of our refineries and the counterclaims from the NNPCL inviting him for a tour of a facility. It almost seems as though going into 2025, we're back to the conversations on how to optimally achieve a full functionality of our refineries. The former president has said that $2 billion had been spent in futility by the NNPCL, citing the refusal of Shell to even take over the running of the refineries. Let's get your thoughts on this issue as we break them down.
Anyway, coming to the comments of wasn't it Mr. Obono? I was not on track actually. I joined midway. It still was sounding somewhat brilliant. I will still make one or two comments regarding his analysis. But first of all, let me lend my thoughts, like you requested, on the issue of the refinery. I think a lot of things actually border around accountability. A lot of things border around accountability, around the detailed information. Like I had said in previous sessions, it is very paramount in a constitutional democracy. I'm here in the United States. I was watching the terrorists, so to speak, that rammed a pickup truck into a crowd of people celebrating the New Year, and inch by inch analysis were being x-rayed by the players, by the key stakeholders, by the security agents that were actually in the venue of the incident. I brought this just to emphasize the fact that accountability is very paramount. Information is key in a constitutional democracy. It is not only Obasanjo that should know about the refinery. The average Nigerian should know bit by bit about the spending, about what is happening. From all indication, there's a whole lot of cosmetic touch going underground. And it seems to me like somebody's performing a loan obligation. Maybe a loan from IMF. One of the clauses might just be go and refurbish and all that. How come a refinery that has not worked in a long time just sprang out of the blues and is producing millions of barrels? I don't understand. So we need to know more about it. It is not only Obasanjo. I don't know. I'm not there in Nigeria, but my instinct tells me, we speak of facts. I'm a lawyer, actually. But from all indication, I take it with a pinch of salt. That's what I'm going to say. I take it with a pinch of salt. That's my personal opinion about the claims and all that. And it looks like when the obligations are performed to optimal level, I don't know what will be remaining of the so-called refinery because it's happening so soon. It's welcome. I'm a Nigerian. I smiled when I saw it. Yes, it's a welcome development. But you would agree with me that something is not adding up. That's all I can say about it. But the major point is Nigerians should know every bit of that development. We are always left in the dark. We're always left in the dark. That's what happens. And then the key people, you take over the former President Obasanjo to the place, and then he has his views and all that, and critics will spring from the shadows, and they are saying their own and all that. What about the average Nigerian who has been craving for this information, who has been waiting for a full load of the details of the development in that sector? How are you making this information to be known to such people? How are you getting across to the people that are supposed to have such information? That is just the comment I just want to make regarding that.
Well, thank you very much. And this brings us to our next point in the news. And thanks to the reference you made about what you observed from Arizona there, following how the security are keeping in touch with preventing further terrorist attacks and even following a sad incident that left many dead. Now, I'm bringing it back to the Nigerian context. One of the newspapers today, and I'll be referring to Honorable Cletus Obun before I come back to you, talked about how the DSS in a covert operation ensured peaceful celebrations in the southeast. Whilst that is the case in the southeast, quite sadly so in Plateau State, the Plateau State Governor, Governor Caleb Mutfwang, is bemoaning what he calls a genocide in deaths that have rocked certain communities in Plateau State. Honorable Cletus Obun, these covert operations, can they be achieved across Nigeria? And it's important to see the DSS being portrayed in such light in the news this morning.
Yeah, let me first tell you this as an activist. As I've been a student and activist, I became a trade unionist in the academia when I was teaching. And in all my encounter with Nigerian security operatives, the DSS came across as the best and most professional among all tiers, including those in the military. I can tell you this.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Well, it seems as though court credit on the end of Honorable Obun would need to reestablish that connection to get his thoughts. But let's pick it up where he left with Barrister Elias Offor. Coming to you now, just to get your thoughts on the security situation in the southeast, and much like Honorable Cletus Obun was commending the DSS for its professionalism, what's your take on this?
Anyway, security situation in the southeast, actually, I think the mileage being achieved by the federal government is actually commendable. I've seen it in a whole lot of places, ranging from the arrest of Simon Ekpa and the rest of them. Of course, it's going to translate into some concrete advantages, especially in the places where some of these things were previously quite endemic. It's quite commendable to a very great extent. But I want to also comment, link the security situation generally across the country. The scorecard is still not looking so commendable. It's not looking appreciably okay or absolutely perfect. Or rather, appreciable extent, the extent that it ought to be, considering the noises we've made about security and the rest of them. I don't think we are there yet. I had Mr. Honorable Bono comment on the accountability of the state governors. I actually overheard it when I joined, and then the populace, so to speak, the citizens, their own responsibilities and all that. The question that came up to my mind was, but I'm trying to link it to security. That's the thing there. It was trying to say that the state governors are not doing what they're supposed to do, and the rest of them, the productivity, especially in the agricultural sector and all that. And I wanted to ask a question. We forgot in a rush that a couple of days ago, there was an attack on Benue State, the food basket of Nigeria. I did my NYC in Benue State. And why I cry every day about Benue is that I know and I knew the potential the state had in terms of food productivity, in terms of agricultural produce and all that. A state that was exporting agricultural produce to Cameroon and the rest of them and neighboring countries cannot do nothing in the immediate because of insecurity. And somebody is there trying to put it to them that they are not doing what they're supposed to do. And then the citizens are not performing optimally. Everybody's blaming the government. What was the promise? The campaign promises, the election, the political manifesto delivered to Nigerians. Did you pen down the accountability? Did you pen down the responsibilities that you expect of Nigerians? You made all the claims, and now it is shifting back to the people that voted you, that this is the role they're supposed to play. I am not saying the citizens should fold their hands and watch the government, but a lot lies in leadership. You are to chart the course. And then you are tasking them to go and hold the minister responsible, to go and hold their governors responsible. Who does that? Just like coming to the United States and then the president, Biden, start telling the citizens that, yes, go and hold your governors. What promises did you make to us? What are the machineries of the government? How is the governance How does governance happen? How does it function? How do you rule the people and all that? How do you rule the people? These are salient questions to be asked. Accountability in governance. How do you check your governors? How do you check whatever allocation that is given to them? Or do you give them money and then you put your back? Is that the cardinal tenets of constitutional democracy? Like Nigeria? It's quite ridiculous. It's quite ridiculous. It looks like begging the case. Trying to say citizens should go and hold your governor, you should go and ask the minister and all that. To me, it's not sounding tidy at all. It's not sounding tidy in any way. It's just a mere sophistry. It's just a calculated effort to defend the excesses of the government or their ineptitude, sheer ineptitude, for goodness sake.
All right, Barrister Elias, we'll come back to you in a bit. We have Honorable Cletus Obun rejoining the conversation. I would like to get your thoughts again, Honorable Cletus. Pick it up from where you left off before you got rudely interrupted by our service providers.
Well, I would have loved to. I don't know. It's unfortunate I didn't hear what the barrister is saying. But if he's talking about holding accountable governors and being the duty of the president and all that, and comparing it to the United States, it will be comparing apples with oranges.
Sorry, let me make this comment because I didn't conclude before you came on. Sorry about that interruption. Just a minute.
Yes.
Just a minute. Yes. Security is in the exclusive legislative list. It is the exclusive duty of the government to control the security apparatuses or apparati in the country. It is exclusively the duty until the police act comes, the police reform comes into fruition. Then we know that states have a composite responsibility to control the instrument of security, talking about the police. So that's one cardinal point where Nigeria has not really got it. We are talking about productivity. We are talking about accountability at the state level. And in simple terms, the farmers cannot go back to farm. The death toll in Benue State is still a living memory, just from a few days back. And what are we talking about? People going to farm to do what? What are they going there to do? What are they going there to do in the face of the carnage that is facing the farmers and all that? It's not about sophistry. Okay. It's about coming down to the terms, coming to terms with what is the realities of what is happening in the country. That is just what it is. I know there are gains here and there, but it's still not good enough. That's what I told Bito anyway. So you can just go ahead and see you're scratching to just
okay, now on security, you are talking about security. I will agree with you that it is majorly the responsibility of the federal government in our context. The reason being that you cannot be controlling the police from Abuja and expecting a state governor to control the police. To that extent, it is clearly the responsibility at the national level. The DSS you are talking about is a federal agency. The Army, the police, the Air Force, and other paramilitary agencies, civil defense, and all that are all under the control of the federal government. So to that extent, yes, the deployment and efficiency of those agencies is clearly the responsibility of the federal government. And that was why I started by commending the DSS as well of being exceptional, especially when we talk about their performance in the southeast within this yellow time. It is the situation in the southeast is even more worrisome because it has defied everything, just like the plateau. I live in Plateau. I grew up in Plateau, so I know Plateau like the back of my hand. And I think the ethnic crisis in Plateau State, like Southern Kaduna, similar to Southern Kaduna, is something that is age-long and it needs a fundamental solution, which is what I saw the governor of Plateau, Muftang, do yesterday. Governor Caleb was doing that yesterday when he brought, and for the first time I saw all their former governors across party lines, across ethnic groups, coming together in government house to interface and for fast solutions. That is the kind of statesmanship and statecraft that I would like to see. Those are things that in our own climate can give us long-term solutions to real-time security crisis of the type that has persisted on the plateau and in Agato in particular. When we talk about Benue crisis, Benue has 23 local governments. All the crises you hear in Benue are stemming from 4 local governments only in their history. All that you have heard. You have never had a crisis in Boko. You've never had a crisis in Vandikia. In fact, you can count the rest. Just 4 local governments have constituted what you know as a crisis in Benue State. If there are others that come out, it's either that they are a fleeting past or something that just happened in passing. The fundamental ones is always Agatu, Gwewet, Agatu, Gwewet, like that. Never beyond. That means there are more of ethnic coloration than any real-time issues about crime and criminality. And you should know, like Afghanistan, like Gaza, like Israel and the Palestinians, I grew up since I could read and write, and I could read my father's newspapers. I've known about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict from the 70s when I could read and write. Will you also blame that on inefficiency? These are things that defy the ordinary sociological and anthropological issues. They are just not there. So when you say that we should look at it as if it is one government or one sub-government, it's been there all along, and what we should be doing in modern times is how to get to the root of it and take that solution out. It is not even in the security architecture, because most of the time what we are doing here is preventive. It's curative most of the time, not even preventive. Because if you ask me, it will require extra intelligence from the community. Oh, they're about to strike, or you look at the timing. Most of the time it is during farming season that these things come out. Or during harvest season, cattle have entered and rustled the rescue of cattle, or the cattle have entered a particular farm and somebody tries to resist, or they're about to start farming and somebody is struggling for farmland. That is when these things happen along those very areas we are talking about in the plateau and in Benue. So for me, gathering of information, that is intelligence gathering, is a twin product of both the community and the government and the security agencies, through the security agencies. In our own time and under our circumstance, I think that there has been a sufficient and reasonable reduction in the killings that have taken place. Beyond the stampede that happened more on a happy ground, like the Yorubas will say, where there is happiness, sadness is not far. And that's why most times during celebrations, inadvertently, never deliberate, things happen in that manner. That is why accidents have, for instance, in Kosovo, between 20th and 23rd, alone, we lost over 15 young people in vehicles returning from Calabar to Obudu, because Kosovo is one of the longest states. So you find that you can't be blaming that, because the road has just been repaired, and then the drivers are recklessly speeding in order to make it up for Christmas, and then they do that. Of course, the story of accidents at Christmas has always been there with us. How do you stop that? It is by constant orientation and continuous education of drivers and even the passengers and road users at the time. Why would you, for example, want to celebrate by the roadside when there are playgrounds to celebrate in? All those things have to be issues that have to be factored into our security architecture. And then, of course, like I said, most of what you see during farming season that is bringing about food security and food shortages is on account of the fact that most of the ungoverned spaces, which are farmlands, have been invaded. But like I said again, in the last 2 years, in the last year of the last regime under Buhari, and to this point, most of these issues have been resolved. And that is why, for example, you described a drop in the price of food crops. There's a drastic drop, and there is expectation that it will drop further as we speak now. Like I say, I'm speaking from home. So I know what the business of Gary was before December 30th. I know what it is as of today. And I know what a banana bunch or a plantain bunch costs as of today between Benue and Cross River. I can tell you that between a bag of rice, a bushel of rice between Abakaliki and Ogoja, I can tell you the prices as we speak this morning. There is a drastic drop, and there is expectation that it will further drop, especially under this fuel crisis and the fuel price fluctuation. As the price of fuel drops elsewhere, so are food prices also dropping. On security in the farms, I think that the army and especially the security structure in our country has done so much in the last 24 months to ensure that the farmlands are safe enough, especially in southern Nigeria. In northern Nigeria, especially in the northeast, that has been almost totally eliminated. in the northeast part of Nigeria. Then in north central, which has been the best, Niger, Benue, and Plateau. Those are the major areas. Plateau, because it has special food species crops that are not produced elsewhere, except in the Mambila Plateau in Taraba. Otherwise, Plateau produces things like Irish potato and other such things, which are not common food crops except elite food. Because of that, what you are getting there is always a constant. That is the crisis and the food production of those quality of food. But otherwise, in Benue and Niger, around the Shiruru area, where fish is produced, you also have that. But you won't get it around the areas where you have a Sunupe stain in Bida. Those areas are never infected or affected by the crisis. So you can go on and segment the country into those areas, and you discover that overall there has been a massive reduction in farm attacks and banditry in those areas, especially after the Minister of Defense has moved the war theater to Sokoto to stem the wars in Zamfara and Kebbi State, which has been a major problem for us because rice production in Zamfara has been a major source of rice in this country, which reduced the price of rice in the last years of the Barr regime. And we saw emergency rice pyramid in Abuja at that time. But with the increase in the activities of bandits in that area, it became a problem. But when this government came into place under Tinubu, he set the war theater like Barr did in Maiduguri. He set his own up in Sokoto, and that has also started reducing the banditry in that area. Because Boko Haram has been sufficiently weakened, and its impact is no longer there. But the bandits are taking over because the guns have changed hands. And the crisis in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have also made it impossible for us to have peace within those border areas of the northeast and northwest.
All right. I'll come to you, Barrister Elias Offor. It's a situation which, in the words of the Plateau State Governor, Governor Caleb Mutfwang, is described as genocide, saying that this did not just happen this Christmas alone, last Christmas as well, and in 22 villages in Plateau State, over 160 people were killed. He says that this is nothing short of a genocide. How do we prefer solutions towards tackling the incessant killings at the Yuletide season in Plateau State?
Okay, actually, the Honorable mentioned a very vital point, which is intelligence gathering, which is a very vital point. In as much as it looks like trying to paint a picture of Uhuru in the governance strategy and all that, and I'm trying to okay everything that the machinery of government has come up with, I would still say that it's still not yet Uhuru. There are a lot of things to be done on. Intelligence gathering, he mentioned. Yeah, intelligence gathering. It's one cardinal thing in the security operations. I agree with him there. But intelligence gathering doesn't come on a platter of gold. It doesn't come on a gold platter. I was listening to the police chief in this Louisiana, this attack, the truck ramming attack, that was saying if you hear something, say something. But the major issue there is that intelligence gathering is not something you wait to drop into your hands. You have to fund it. I wouldn't go into the nitty-gritty of security strategy. But the point I'm trying to make is that it takes a conscious effort to make a reasonable mileage in terms of security operations, in terms of anti-insurgency operations, or whatever thing, or banditry, or kidnapping, and all that. A lot of them, the security experts know this more. Yeah, talking about genocide in the Plateau. Yeah, it's quite worrisome. It's very, very worrisome. It's actually countering the claims being made by the Honorable. To me, it's still looking grotesque. It's still looking grotesque. It's looking grotesque because of the claims the government has made over time. And again, the Honorable, of course, you see his own sophistry and all that, the defenses he's putting up and all that. To me, the blood of Nigerians should not be shed in such abysmal manner, in such such carnage shouldn't be existing at this point, because we've come a long way, because of the claims the government has made, because of the reforms they claim they are making and all that. And I keep saying this. if you say you've chased the herdsmen from the farms, the citizens, the farmers need to be confident. Assurances should go to the farmers to know that there's nothing like that again. The threats are removed completely. It's just like what we have in the Northeast. He said there's no threat again in the Northeast. And I laughed a little bit. I worked with a humanitarian agency that was based in the Northeast. And I know the threat up to today. I know what happens up to today in the Northeast and even in the Northwest. So it's not a day that we're talking about. That day has not come. I know there's this post-insurgency reconstruction and all that, but that doesn't mean that the place is already clean in the way we are looking at it. So it still persists. I commend the Nigerian military, I commend the security agencies in their efforts in the Northeast and all that, but these people keep regrouping. Strategies need to be heightened to discourage further influx into membership of some of these groups. There are so many things to be done and all that. I commend government anyway. Rome was not built in a day. We once heard of Afghanistan, we once heard of Yemen and the rest of them, and then things are still happening there. But that doesn't mean we have to cover the eyes of Nigerians to paint this picture that everything is Charlie. No, we cannot do that. There are still pockets of attack here and there, cattle rustling, kidnapping, and all that. I was just watching one video the other day. I think it's in the southeast. A full vehicle was discharged by kidnappers, and they took everybody away. So you can imagine how that families, how that such family would have felt or would have fared in this particular period that people are going to enjoy with their loved ones and friends. So it's not about making the scorecard look so beautiful and all that. I'm painting a very good picture of the governance and all. But as we are Nigerians, I will only say amen to most of those claims. Yeah, I will say let it happen in the way that he's putting it. Let it happen. I'm here in the United States. I've lost touch with so many things that are happening there, but I still get track of the news. And when I come across some of these things, I tell myself it shouldn't be happening. It is born out of patriotism.
All right.
And I tell you one thing.
Let's look at some particular incidents that are also making the rounds that Nigerians are talking about. Quite sadly, on New Year's Day in Imo State, a Catholic priest, Reverend Father Joseph Einaya, had an accidental discharge in what he says is his side of the story. But the Imo State Police Command has also launched an investigation into the alleged shooting of a teenager. The teenagers were said to have been playing with firecrackers to celebrate the new year at the premise of the church, and the Reverend Father in question, trying to disperse them, fired some shots in the air, and accidentally one of such bullets hit the teenager who lost his life. I'll come to Honorable Cletus Obun. Honorable Cletus, it brings back the conversation that many were having last year in 2024 about small arms and light weapons and combating crimes. Whilst cases were made for why the Reverend Father had such a weapon in his possession, this culture of celebrating the new year with bangers and firecrackers that has now sadly left a teenager dead have continued to elicit reactions from Nigerians. I don't know what you make of this sad story and if there are any solutions that can be preferred to prevent a reoccurrence.
First of all, in the entire Southeast, Imo and Anambra are the most volatile in terms of violent crime. Not just violent crime, in terms of militancy. I won't call that banditry, militancy. The Biafran agitation, the political tensions are so bitter in these two states that recently a visit to Imo State, we discovered that you cannot put out a canopy and pretend that you are doing any form of celebration, including marriages. You can't do it in any part of Imo State in the open, in fact, I have not heard of any. Most of them even go to Enugu State to do those celebrations, or to Abuja. They no longer take celebrations to any part of Imo State. I'm talking my experience of 2 weeks ago. On our return, we ran into a community that was desolate. And we were only freed because one of the persons there spoke the language they understood. That was how we were able to be let go. So you can see clearly that bearing arms in that kind of environment, even in the church premises, has become inevitable. That is to answer the question as to why a priest will be holding weapons. So he may also have had his experiences. The kidnap of priests in Imo State is the highest number anywhere in the world, including bishops, have been abducted. What their crime is, nobody knows. When they need money to fund their crimes or to fund their operations, they take on such priests, knowing that their church members, the congregation, will come to the aid of the priest. So they have become very soft targets for those group of people. So it is rather unfortunate that the teenager had to die in the course of this. Very, very unfortunate, very saddening, and in the hands of a priest for that matter. I am not aware that even the man was carrying a gun, that the priest will want to gun him down. I don't know any such priest that will carry a gun to shoot another person. He will rather surrender now. You have seen several of them bombs like that in Niger State, some in Kaduna, like that. They could have as well defended themselves, but they have become martyrs. Because going there at all to preach is an acceptance of martyrdom. And serving in Imo State today as a priest is a sign of martyrdom, because you don't know when next you will be taken away and if you will come back alive. So this incident marks a turning point for which the 70% capacity Imo Catholics must have to come out and condemn. Imo is populated mostly by Anglicans and by Catholics, and that means that they are predominantly Christians. What that should teach us in a season like this, where we are celebrating the solemnity of the nativity of Jesus, that is the birth of Jesus Christ, we can turn around to be so violent in the name of celebration. It's quite unfortunate. I would rather not have commented on this, but because it serves our national discourse, I will have to say that the police, after its investigation, will discover that there was never an intention to kill or to even shoot at anybody for that matter, because there's no way anybody will not know that this is banger or fireworks that is collateral an attack. So evidently the crowd would have been too much, and based on past experiences, the priest would have wanted to do that, disperse that, so that people don't take advantage of that crowd. Like I told you, they barely celebrate in that part of the country. They barely celebrate. What we went for was even a traditional wedding. We couldn't celebrate it. We had to sit in the parlor pretending that it was a family meeting for us to be able to discuss anything. Even to return there, we are thinking twice. We may never have to go there again. I can tell you this.
No, very.
Again, that will again show you the extent to which cultural affiliations and relationships between states and between within the country that should be even a binding force is now being threatened by simple issues of young people taking situations out of proportion and out of context. So when we speak like that, we say it is sophistry. What else are you engaged in public discourse than sophistry? If sophistry is not being deliberately used, was it not in the first place the basis for which most people like Plato, most people like Socrates, and others for which they were known? Is it not even a qualification in America, barrister, where you live? Is that not part of the subject that was there in Edo State on account of lack of eloquence on the part of a particular candidate who still went ahead to win? So I do not think that sophistry should be used in a derogatory manner to suggest that it is a bundle of lies. I'm no Nigerian living here will pretend that Nigerians are not in trouble. No Nigerian living in Nigeria, even the president in his speech, admitted that much. So to suggest that we are saying that there's a reduction in most of what we used to have, we are dealing with statistics. We are dealing with the facts of our reality. And I'm telling you that I came from Imo State, I'm in Cross River now. I've been living for Abuja, either by air or by land, and that means that I am up and about the country. I've gone to Bama, I've gone to Goza. As we speak now, a federal college of education is springing up in Goza. The governor has virtually taken it over from the federal government, building almost everything they need there. If there is no peace, there's no way he would have done that. He has finished the perimeter fencing. He's brought 2 classroom blocks of 200 capacity each, and then an administrative block on behalf of the federal government as part of his contribution to encourage the federal government to start the college. That is what Governor Zulum has done in Goza, which used to be, remember that when you hear the Chibok girls, it's around the same southern Borno area. That is the same area that you had the Chibok girls being kidnapped. That is where the federal college is cited, and it is on. My friend is the chairman of Governing Council, the provost is there. School activities have started. My own younger brothers are going to stay there to work there. I've asked them to give me people that I want to send people to Borno State to show that this place is not as bad as it takes us to be. The University of Maiduguri has not shut down in the past 10 years. So please, I would like us not to make it look as if you sit in the US and imagine that every little thing, like that footage you are talking about. There are old videos that people use to give a bad name to the country. There are the footages that people use to give a bad name. That didn't exist. If it exists, the media people in the studio there should tell us where those people were kidnapped, where a truck was brought and people were brought out by kidnappers.
All right, Honorable, in keeping with another issue in the news, we'll get your thoughts shortly, but let's pick it off with Barrister Elias Offor. It's on the Niger Delta stakeholders who have written to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, warning of looming crisis over oil blocks licensing. Our Commonwealth has always become one of the hotspots for a lot of challenges that have plagued the country, either in its theft or as a divisive factor in springing some fights and bickering between Nigerians. What do you make of this written address to the president on the licensing of oil blocks, Barrister Elias Offor? And can the ownership of these oil blocks by Niger Deltans somewhat reduce the agitations we find in the region?
Actually, as a matter of fact, I have not really followed that information, but be that as it may, in a constitutional democracy, we are talking about democracy in Nigeria, and what we keep preaching, it's been decades since the likes of Ken Saro-Wiwa died, was killed in a very gruesome way, because of his activism, and which was born out of an agitation for a true federal environment, in a way that the states will be allowed to reap the benefits of the resources that nature bestowed in the land. Yeah, oil blocks and all that. There's a whole lot of technicalities around that. Initially, I was having that impression that it was very exploitative. When I read through, I discovered that there are so many indices, other indices behind that. But in the Nigerian context, you would agree with me that so many things still happen in a way that the bourgeois, the political class, I had the Honorable talk about largesse, national largesse, and all that. That is the main national largesse. That is where it is. It has made kings and queens in Nigeria. It has made oil magnates, people that matter, and all that. Nobody talks about it. So that's the thing there. So it's not managed. It's not managed in a way. Anyway, maybe somebody, it's just like what I'm talking about information dissemination in governance, strategic communication. How do you tell the populace? How do you tell the governed what happens? How do you educate them? And worse still, the academic institutions are moribund. Here in the United States, the ivory tower take the responsibility of bringing up certain things in an area that needs technical analysis or a particular area of knowledge. You will see eggheads coming to explain such things. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in Nigeria, but we are not empowered to do most of those things. What you hear, politicians come to give you figures. They come to quote statistics that the market woman does not even know about. We're talking of sophistry. Yeah, sophistry is an instrument. Yeah, Socrates and the rest of them. They utilized it to I'll talk about the Cassius Brutus and the rest of them in the era of Julius Caesar. Yeah, they made use of sophistry to convince the Romans and all that. Yeah, I quite agree with you. But we keep talking about the peculiarities of a particular people. The agent, and the Bible says the children of Issachar understood the times. You cannot make a reasonable mileage if you don't understand the times. That is the problem we have in Nigeria. So we speak a whole lot and we do quite and all that, and we come up again to start talking about statistics and all that, start defending. But when you go into the peculiarities, the reality looking us in the face, And they were talking about the price of food and all that, and all staple food, that there's an improvement and all that. I saw it in the news. The incentive that's going to be established, how do I put it? The subvention, how do I put it? The tax rebate, what term, I've forgotten it. For a particular period of time, the importation that the federal government is going to broker, for food to be available to a very great extent, I didn't see it happen. And we are talking about them making progress in terms of the price of food in the country. I don't know, have people there. I know what they lament every day. I know what they still say even in the present time. I see it in the news every time. I go to the internet, I see the price of food. So where is the improvement? What is the price of what are the prices of commodities in Nigeria? That's the question to ask. So it's not all about coming up to say, yeah, sophistry is very necessary and all that.
All right.
Do such a thing. Let us tell Nigerians what it is.
Let me help you.
So that is just what it is.
Let me help you. When we talk about food prices and the internet, those who write those things in the internet, do they know where Bumaji market is? Do they know where Bendere market is? That is where the food is. When you get into a third and fourth chain of sellers, and you go to the supermarket in Spar or ShopRite to go and buy your rice and tell us that's the food price, do the people in my village know the road to ShopRite? Do they even know such a shop exists? Those are the prices you are seeing on your internet. We go to Obudu market, we go to Sankola market. That's where we go to shop. 90% of Nigerians, that's where they go to their market. In Abuja, people go to Kabusa market. People go to fruit market in Masaka and Maraba. They don't go to ShopRite to go and pick your food prices. Those who do computation, do they go there? Now, let me give you another one.
I have made the rhetorical question, Honorable. I also have a rhetorical question.
I have made the point all the time on national television that I hate statistics coming from people who sit in offices. That those statistics don't add up to the reality we know on the streets. The reason is that what they give to us, for instance, I just give you an example, how between Bandikia and Obudu, which is a distance of less than 5 minutes, you buy a liter of fuel for 1,150 naira in Bandikia and come to Obudu and buy for 1,300 naira. 100% increase or 50% increase and difference. A man who is living in Bandikia, when you now tell him that things are, petrol is expensive in Kosovo, tells you that he read on the internet that fuel in Abuja is 1,060 naira, which is the truth. Fuel in Abuja is 1,060 naira, 1,050 naira in some stations. In Obudu, where I'm sitting now, in Boki, where I am now, where I came from, I'm going to go there from here. A liter of fuel is 1,300 today, as we speak. And people are in Abuja buying fuel for 1,060 naira. Because of that, the bringing of the food to Abuja to sell will double the price, because taking it now to Abuja, the person has to pay the price of the fuel he is buying from Cross River State. So that increases the price, and then we now turn around. So what we should be challenging is federal government. You told us that you are bringing CNG buses. Where are they to reduce the cost of transportation? Where are the CNG buses? Those are the realities I like talking about, and that is where my own challenge is with the opposition and those who want to preside government. Take them on those specifics that affect the people on the ground. You told us CNG buses 1,000 will be on within 6 months. 8 months on down the line, we are not seeing them. Who is holding it and what is holding it? 2, you are talking about conversion centers. How long will it take us? Be specific. Tell us that from the technology we find here, we will do it in 1 year's time. Nigerians will wait for you for 1 year to come and fix those stations so that people can go there and convert their vehicles into gas. Let us know those specifics. And let me tell you, once you bring down the price of fuel and energy in Nigeria, automatically, within 24 hours, the price of everything will go down.
All right.
Because all is put down to the price of transportation and movement in Nigeria. That is where we are. And that's why NNPC is key to us. And that is why government operators and officials and operatives must be factual with us with specifics. If the technology won't allow you, if time won't allow you, when Buhari was to bring us to Kano jet to fight crime in the Northeast, he bought them 2 years ahead of time, because if he waited for 2 years, it will take more time to produce them and bring them to Nigeria. So he paid ahead without going for appropriation. The National Assembly and most critics of the government accuse the government of not going through appropriation through the process. And he said, look, we have a national emergency. We cannot wait for due processing. But this is the kind of a thing that we start talking about accountability, about constitutional democracy, and why we should wait and take due process. You do that, and the country is going down. We have the Tucano bus,
right.
the Tucano jet, and before you know it, the Northeast went down in terms of Boko Haram. It was sufficiently reduced on account of those Tucano jets.
All right, Honorable.
So please.
Time, I'm afraid, will not allow for us to go any step further, but we appreciate you for your vehement thoughts and perspectives. We hope to continue this conversation in our next meeting, and we wish you a safe trip back from your hometown.
Thank you very much, and next time you will be operating from here to come and see what we are doing with ourselves.
Thank you. Barrister Elias Offor would also be saying our goodbyes, and we're hopeful that as you enjoy your vacation, whenever you come back to Nigeria, would revisit the conversation in our studios as well.
It's okay. Thank you for having me, Peter. Thank you.
Well.
Yeah.